here and say that some of the cuts we've seen and some of the reforms we've seen since the coalition have come to power are necessary. I think they are. I think we've had an approach to family and child poverty over the last probably 15, 20 years that I see as unsustainable and not actually tackling the real problems which we're facing. And I think we as a community who care about families and about children need to accept that we probably won't see a return to that sort of expenditure and that sort of system, and actually start talking about how we can actually deliver what we need to deliver for families with less money. That said, I'm going to talk about 3 highlights, 3 lowlights, and then talk a little bit about that kind of vision I have for how we can start to reform the system to deliver more but with less. So over the last year, the highlights I see, I've got 3. There's a number, but I'm going to focus on the 3 of them. First of all, on child poverty, I see the discussion around moving away from a purely finance or income-based measure of child poverty as a huge success. I was previously in the Treasury for 8 years working on these areas, and I saw year after year a focus on the child poverty numbers and trying to work out how much money we need to throw at the system to make sure that we didn't impact on child poverty in a bad way. That's no way to run policy. Basically, it doesn't look at the causes, it treats the symptoms. And clearly we need to be trying to sort out how to actually deal with the symptoms of child poverty rather than just trying to throw money at it. Saying that, I'm slightly disappointed we didn't go further. I think while we maintain an income-based measure, the press, the RFS, commentators will always focus on it. And that means that to really get towards somewhere where we can look at the causes, we need to actually remove that measure and start to look more purely at things like difference in outcomes in education and those sorts of areas. The second area I see as success is the support for families and refocusing towards those families who need it most. So I think there's been some kind of some sensitivity in how some of the budget's been cut. So obviously there's been a reduction in tax credits for those on higher incomes. There's been the restriction of child benefit for those with higher rate taxpayers in the family. Obviously there's issues around how that's implemented, but I think those are a reflection of that. We want to focus, the government wants to focus money on those who actually need the help the most. In a similar way, my third area is, of course, the people premium. Policy Exchange have long been in favour of the people premium, so we're very pleased that that's been put into place. Moving away from highlights and looking more at lowlights, I think, as highlighted in the report, obviously the macroeconomy is causing problems for families. The increase in inflation and persistent high inflation is really hitting the living standards of families and the buying power of families. Obviously, my second area of low light, that leads straight on to housing costs and the fact that housing costs are still too high. We have around 2 million households on the waiting list for social housing. We're frankly just not building enough houses to house the people we need to. Finally, we're doing some work at the moment looking at the care system and how that works. We're arguing, although there's improvement in the gap between those in the care system and those not in the care system in terms of educational outcomes, there's real concern still over the sort of outcomes that the care system is providing to those who go through it. And I think it's really one area where you just need to spend more money in the recognition of the long-term cost that leads to. Just say quickly, we're doing work in all those areas, so look out for that as they come out. But want to move finally on to looking at the future and what I'm saying about doing more for less. The thing that worried me in the scorecard, and also it's fair to say in government policy, and specifically from the Department of Work and Pensions, is the focus on universal credit as being a way to solve all the ills of family policy and indeed work. So first of all, it says it's going to be the answer to getting people into work, and secondly, getting people out of poverty. If you look at the first of these, getting people into work, which is obviously key to job poverty, it's key to helping families, it only actually reduced the numbers of workless households by 300,000. That leaves 3.6 million workless households. What do we do with the rest? And moving on from there, if you look at poverty, it talks about lifting people out of poverty, not helping them, or providing them the tools to lift themselves out of poverty. I don't think that's the right way to go. And as I said, the last 20 years have seen us taking that approach. And although there's been some improvement in child poverty rates and support for families, I don't think we've really moved far enough. So we'd argue that actually what we need to do is give more support other than finance. That's about changing the way Jobs Centre Plus works, giving more support to those families with the greatest needs, expecting more of people who are doing all they can, whether that's fathers who aren't paying child maintenance, or whether that's people who aren't doing all they can to get back into work. But backing that up with support for those people. Secondly, I think this point has been made before, we need to look much more carefully at how childcare fits into the system. I'm pretty sure that DWP and other departments have very few ideas about how to make the childcare system work without it costing too much money, so that's the issue going forward. Finally, one area where we're really keen to do something is introduce a welfare account for people, where they can save as they're in work. The government helps them to do that, and when they become unemployed, or when they need help and support or to buy bulky items which they haven't accounted for, they can dip into that welfare account to try and tide over some of those spending needs. Again, we're doing work in these areas, so watch this space. So basically that's my plan. It's a case of we've got less money, so we need to do different things. And I'd be really interested to hear your thoughts.